Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust and Transparency. Today, I'm actually doing a part 2 to the video I posted yesterday, which was 5 properties, Dave, what do I do now? And this was based off a guy called Jeremy's question, who had 5 properties in his portfolio, was looking to get towards his $3 million PPR somehow. I feel like I kind of answered it, but I didn't give as much value and unpack as I usually did. So I wanted to do a part 2, particularly as well, there was a comment on that video, which you can go back and see, where someone has broken down selling costs and worked all that stuff out. And I thought, I'll actually work that out because the numbers didn't look quite right. I've got them all behind me. I'm going to walk you guys through it. If you haven't seen Jeremy's video yesterday that I've done for him, go back and have a look. I'll link it up here. I'll bring it up here now on YouTube. But this is the full question. The question is, hey, Davey, hope you're well. Been an OG of your podcast and your new channel, watched every video, appreciate you doing something every day. Personal investment question, keen to get your thoughts. He said, I have 5 investment properties, about $3 million in value, 4 in trusts, 500K in savings ready to deploy. Strategy is to aggressively catapult my net worth over the next 5 years with the view to sell some IPs and buy an owner OC for around $3 million. Plus IPs in the background that are building wealth. I'm on 150K plus super. My wife is currently not working as we just had a baby and we found out we're having another one. Just wondering, what would you do with my situation? I would love to get into development, but I can't go down that path at the moment as I'm quite time poor with family, work and church commitments. Was thinking of buying 2 properties, higher value, such as the one in the Northern Corridor of Melbourne, townhouse in Western Sydney, around $850 each. I know the yield will suck, but the goal here is growth over cash flow in the short term. I'd love to get into commercial property, but I have massive residential FOMO right now and don't want to miss the exponential growth likely to follow from all these government schemes, such as the Help to Buy. Apologies for the long-winded message. Now, in that video, I kind of broken down a certain situation. There's certain situation about what he can do. Again, and as usual in my videos, not financial advice, but if you ask me a question for educational purposes, I'll answer it. I'll give you my 10 cents. Take that to your team that are qualified to give you the advice. Accountants, mortgage brokers for 2 to start off with. What I wanted to do in the scenario and the numbers that I've wanted to crunch, I've been crunching numbers for about half an hour on this one, and I wanted to run you guys through, and Jeremy, you in particular, because you've been such a diligent listener and follower of the podcast and my personal channel. Now, this is the way I've done it. Your current portfolio, based on the 5 properties that you have, when we add all them together, we get a portfolio value of $2,965,000. We round up to 3 mil. On that, we have debt of $2,202,000. Now, what I wanted to do was not only calculate, I wanted to calculate what our cost base was going to be, as well as the value, so that when we sell, we can actually work out how much money we can make. Now, this is all obviously going to be rough. We're only in terms of cost base calculating the costs associated with purchasing and selling, and assuming that whilst holding those properties, you're going to be claiming those things at tax time. So there's nothing involved in the cost base there. But best person to speak to, quantity surveyor and accountant for that. Now, these are the property purchase prices, okay? When we add all those together, we get a purchase price or a cost base of $2.55 million worth of real estate. Now, I have also added on to that 7% of that amount. Why? 7% will include things like stamp duty. Even if you have went in at higher deposits, you will still pay some stamp duty, still pay some legals, pay some other fees. So I've added on 7% to get your original cost base, which is $2,728,500. And if you feel that I've missed something, got something wrong, I'm very open and happy to hear it. I'm a human. I make mistakes as well as you guys. It means you have an original cost base of the properties that you've purchased and those additional costs when purchasing, which is $2,728,500. Now, what I've done over here is I've said, okay, well, with our portfolio value, if it was to increase at an average of 6% every year for the next 7 years, what would it equal in 6 years' time? What would it equal in 7 years' time at 6%? What will it equal growing at 7% for 7 years, 10% for 7 years, and 12% for 7 years. So as you can see, our portfolio, well, ours, there we go, I've just claimed ownership of it. But your portfolio, Jeremy, you know, is going to be anywhere between 4.5 to 6.5, depending on what sort of growth. Then I've calculated, okay, well, if we have $4.45 million of real estate in 7 years' time and we want to sell all of it, we'll pay about 3% selling costs. 2 or 1.8 will go to the agent, then we have all those other fees. And I've calculated what the 3% selling costs on the total amount would be. This is if you're selling out the entire portfolio, right? So, to run you guys through it, at 6%, in 7 years' time, the portfolio is going to go from 2.965 to 4.45 million. If we sell the entire portfolio, all 5 down, we'll pay about 133,500 in selling costs, which means we'll make a gain of $1.588 million. That is this figure plus this figure plus this figure minus from this. We make a gain of $1.588 million. We then will pay tax I've worked out to be 45%, because let's be honest, if you're already on 150, you're moving up towards that, and any of these gains is going to push you into a high tax territory. So I've worked it out at 45% tax, meaning you'll pay $357,300 and you'll net $1.2 million. So something to take into consideration now, and Jeremy, this is something for you to decide, is again what I said in that first video, but is like, how many of these properties do you want to sell? How much of this profit do you want to bank? And how much do you want to take off the PPR? Some people will just want to do this, go out so they can buy the PPR in cash and live a happy life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people will want to only sell a couple, retain, and have a bigger mortgage. It's really up to you. 7 years' time, maybe the portfolio moves into neutral to positively geared territory. So you might not have that negative gearing benefit, or you know, maybe if it's not a benefit, if it's costing you every week, but then you'll have the PPR. So it's something that you need to balance. 7% portfolio value goes up 4.7, leaving us with a profit after we take out our tax of 1.46 million. Now, as you can see, and as I think what will happen, if you stayed at where you're at and you get somewhere between 7 and 10%, what you're going to find is between sort of that 1.4 to 2.2 million dollar range if you sold your entire portfolio. That means if you're trying to get into a $3 million portfolio, a $3 million primary place of residence, you'll get there. You will likely have a mortgage of about $1 to $1.5 million. If the money's costing you at a 4.5% interest rate, very easy maths, that's going to cost you $1 million of debt will cost you 45 grand. If it's $1.5 million worth of debt, it'll cost you closer to 70 grand. Just something to keep in mind, especially with your wife and if she goes back to work. If we have an absolute tear in the next 7 years, you could almost pay that off in fully. That is the scenario if you stay as how you are and you don't use that $500,000 in cash that you said you had. However, what I have done also and went into modeling manually, I didn't want to do this in a spreadsheet because I think it's more fun to have it out there. Or I have added in 2 purchases at $800,000 each. You had $500K in cash. I've went conservative here, $800K, meaning that you're going to put down 20-30% deposits to make sure that debt is low, to ensure that you can get the loan. As we said before, because a lot of those purchases, 4 out of 5 of these are in trusts, one's in personal name, you might have to go down a few tiers of lending, higher interest rate. But let's just say we can get over the line at 2 at $800,000, right? That means, and I'm just putting 1.6 mil onto my portfolio value, meaning your portfolio value is going to jump up to $4.565 million, which is great. Our cost base, on the other hand, is calculated by getting the 2.55, adding on the 1.6, which is 4.15 million. Again, I'm putting on top of that 7%. My pen's starting to run out. I'm starting to put on top of that 7% of purchasing costs on top, because that is a cost. That is not free money. meaning your cost base now is up to $4.44,500 or thereabouts. When we get into the modeling of what happens if this portfolio here grows at 6% for 7 years, conservatively, in 7 years' time, at 6%, it's worth $6.86 million. 3%, remember, we got to pay our selling costs, meaning we've gained 2.2, we pay a lot of tax, and we're left with $1.7 million. So as you can see, we're about $500,000 better between these two. If we can go up to 7%, 7% growth rate, portfolio's worth $7.33 million, pay a bit of tax, selling costs, $600 in tax. And remember, guys, as well, these figures are all rounded up. I've rounded up a bunch of them. So when it's 600,000 and 65 or 123, I've just rounded up to pretty numbers because it's so much easier to say and work through. 7%, you make $2,069,000 compared to 1.46. So we're about $600,000 better off. At 10%, again, dreaming in this rate, and I'll be very honest with you, 10%, 8.9 or $10 million, meaning we come out with either 3.2 or $4 million. Where I think and my gut feel is that we're likely going to end around 7 to 10, possibly, meaning you will profit and be able to come out if you sell if you buy 2 more properties, then you sell all 7. You're going to have in cash in 7 years' time somewhere between $2 to $3 million. Around that, 2 to 3 mil. The good part about that is again, if you want that PPI and it's worth $3 million, we're looking at $1 million or less on the PPR mortgage, which interest rates settle down to something around 4.5%, 45 grand a year is very palatable, even if and you're on 150K, so there's a bit of surplus there, but plenty of options and plenty of opportunity there. You can also look at something like debt recycling, which is obviously paying that house, extracting the equity and repurchasing and starting again. That's something that you could potentially look at, speak with your accountant. But I'm thinking if you are able to buy 2 more at 800, you know, there's 2 to 3 million that. So you might get really close to having your PPOR paid out in fully. However, the only drawback is that you're selling down your portfolio. So you can't have both. Definitely with the 7-year time period and the start that you've had, you definitely can't have both, unfortunately, in these circumstances. So you've got to pick your battles, whether it's PPR with a big mortgage, small mortgage, keep the investment portfolio, sell it off. You know, what is the role of it? So I'll leave that to you to decide. But, you know, anything here as well, and I'm not trying to convince you, Jeremy, or anyone there watching, but this is why I love property development, because property development allows you to wipe out debt so quickly compared to waiting on growth. So if you're doing developments, right, and you're making $500,000 to $600,000, anywhere between sort of $500,000 to $1 million in 18 months, just think of how quickly you can start to pay off a lot of these debts. Start to pay off. Like, for example, got a couple of projects at the moment where if you're making 400, 500, 600 grand or $1 million or 1.8 mil per project in 18 months, you can almost wipe the entire debt off a portfolio. That's the power of development, but won't open that can of worms. Jeremy, you've been left with some things to think about. If you got value from this, let me know. If you've got a question, comment, you disagree, I've got something wrong, please enter in the comments and let me know about it. Most importantly, if you're getting value from these videos, appreciate if you subscribe. I'm trying to hit 2,500 subscribers by the end of 2025. Recording this video 6th of November. I have 1,689 subscribers, which means, guys, I have 811 subscribers to go in the next 7-8 weeks. I don't know if I can get there, but if you guys can help me, I would really appreciate it. As always, you want to ask me a question or anything like that, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.